Hi girls, today we are going to see about collisions in 4th chapter and in the play carom, billiards and marbles etc. Suppose if we play those games, definitely can see the collisions. So there the collisions happen between two bodies without, sometimes with contact and sometimes without physical contacts, and we are going to see about the science behind these collisions. And so when you see the linear momentum, momentum is a product of mass and velocity, and linear momentum will be conserved. And so this is because when two bodies collide, there will be some impulsive force acting between them and they produce a change in the respective momenta. And according to Newton's second law, the second body exerts a force F12 vector on the first body, and similarly the first body will exert a force F21 vector on the second body. So they will produce a change in momentum delta P1 vector and delta P2 vector, and P1 P2 are the momentum of the first body and the second body. Delta means change in momentum, and so you can write this as delta P1 vector is equal to F1 vector into delta T, because F12 vector is a force exerted by the second body on the first body. And so similarly delta P2 vector is equal to F2 vector into delta T, and this is nothing but impulse. So the force acting for a very short time is called impulse, and this is equal to the change in momentum. And so here when you take this, so delta P1 vector plus delta P2 vector is equal to F12 vector delta T plus F21 vector delta T, because we are adding both the equations and taking F12 vector and F21 vector outside delta T into delta T. These two forces are equal and opposite according to Newton's third law. So the two terms get cancelled, that is F12 vector and F21 vector get cancelled. So the equation now becomes delta P1 vector plus delta P2 vector is equal to 0. Taking delta outside, within the brackets P1 vector plus P2 vector, which is equal to 0. And so here delta T is the time taken, and now you divide both the sides by delta T. So this equation now becomes, applying limit delta T tends to 0, delta P1 vector plus P2 vector by delta T is equal to, you can write this in differentiation form, that is a d of P1 vector plus P2 vector divided by dt, and this is equal to 0 because we have seen that here delta P1 vector plus P2 vector is equal to 0. So here also the right hand side will become 0, and this will happen only when P1 vector plus P2 vector is a constant. So because when you differentiate only the constant, you will get 0. So definitely P1 vector plus P2 vector must be equal to constant. So from this you can say that the total linear momentum is always a conserved quantity. And when you see the types of collisions, and in any collision process the total linear momentum and the total energy are always conserved, whereas the total kinetic energy need not be conserved. So only linear momentum and energy will remain constant, whereas the total kinetic energy is not conserved. And because when you see in any collision, the resultant during loss in kinetic energy, the kinetic energy is converted into heat, sound, light, etc. So there definitely there will be some loss in kinetic energy. And when you see, there are two types of collisions, elastic collision and inelastic collision. In elastic collision, the total kinetic energy before collision must be equal to total kinetic energy after collision. Suppose if you throw an elastic ball on the wall, it will bounce back. So the kinetic energy before collision and after collision will remain same. Whereas in inelastic collision, it is not equal. So in inelastic collision, the total kinetic energy before collision is not equal to total kinetic energy after collision. So there is some difference, that is when you subtract total kinetic energy before collision and after collision, you will get a loss in energy during collision. Usually this is denoted by delta Q. This delta Q is converted into heat, light, etc., sound, etc., and that I have already told you, that is the kinetic energy during collision, that is a loss, is transformed into another form of energy like sound, thermal, etc. And so here there is another type called as perfectly inelastic collision. For this you can consider an example. When a clay putty or you throw a bubble gum on a moving vehicle, it will stick to the moving vehicle. So both of them will move with the same velocity. So in such a case it is said to be perfect inelastic collision. So mainly there are two types, elastic collision and inelastic collision. In that there is another third one is perfect inelastic collision. Next we are going to see about elastic collisions in one dimension. That is, they are moving in the straight line on the frictionless surface. And here when you see there are two masses m1 and m2. m1 moving with velocity u1 and m2 moving with velocity u2. And after collision, m1 the velocity changes to v1 and m2 the velocity changes to v2. So in general, u1 u2 represent initial velocities and v1 v2 represent final velocities. And so here suppose you take a condition that m1 moves faster than the mass m2, so that the collision take place, u1 is greater than u2, and here you consider this collision as elastic collision. And elastic collision, total linear momentum and kinetic energy will remain same. And before going to see that, we shall see about the difference or comparison between elastic and inelastic collision. So when you say both of them, the total momentum is conserved in both elastic collision and inelastic collision, whereas this is the same point, whereas the other three are different. That is, total kinetic energy here conserved, and in elastic collision it is not conserved. Here the forces involved are conservative forces, that means constant force. Here the forces involved are non-conservative forces, and here the mechanical energy is not dissipated, and here the mechanical energy is dissipated into heat, light, sound, etc. Here there is no loss, so the no mechanical energy is dissipated. And when you see this tabular column, you can leave these tabular columns, just to read this equation alone. That is, you see the left hand side represent the total linear momentum before collision. So m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to, the right hand side is the total linear momentum after collision, that is m1 v1 plus m2 v2. You take m1 outside and also m2 outside, you will get this equation. And you needn't study this tabular columns. And next we are going to see about kinetic energy. That is, I have already told you that kinetic energy before collision and after collision must be same. This is kinetic energy before collision, half m1 u1 square plus half m2 u2 square, that must be equal to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square, and throughout that you can cancel half. And so here the remaining terms are arranged so that m1 into u1 square minus v1 square is equal to m2 into v2 square minus u2 square. And already you know this formula, a square minus b square is equal to a plus b into a minus b. Substituting that in the above equation, you will get m1 into u1 plus v1, similarly u1 minus v1, and that is equal to m2 into v2 plus u2 into v2 minus u2. Next we are going to divide that equation by the momentum equation. Already we have simplified the momentum equation, divide both of them. Here all the terms get cancelled, so you will get only u1 plus v1 is equal to v2 plus u2, and bring initial velocities to one side, so u1 minus u2 is equal to v2 minus u1. So here you can also write the right hand side as minus of v1 minus v2. That means the relative velocity before collision is equal to the opposite of relative velocity after collision. So that is the main point in this. But so the relative speed of the two elastic bodies after the collision has the same magnitude as before collision, but in opposite direction. So here when you rearrange this equation, and you can get what is v1 and what is v2. v1 is the final velocity of mass m1 and v2 is the final velocity of mass m2. So you rearrange this equation so that you will get two equations, v1 and v2. Next we are going to see about what are the final velocities v1 and v2. For that you take this equation 447. I have written that on above this. m1 of u1 minus v1 is equal to m2 of v2 minus u2. Now you can substitute for u2 now, because you have found out the value for this. So substituting for that V2, you will get U1 plus V1 minus U2 minus U2. So minus U2 minus U2 will become minus 2U2, and you expand throughout, remove the brackets, and so M1 U1 minus M2 U1, that plus 2M2 U2 is equal to, you bring this minus to the other side, minus M1 V1 to the other side. So you make this equation as U1 U2 V1 terms. U1 is taken outside and U2 V1. So from which you can find out V1. V1 is equal to M1 minus M2 by M1 plus M2 into U1 plus 2M2 divided by M1 plus M2 into U2. Just we are rearranging this equation so that we are getting the final velocity of the first object V1, first object M1. So similarly again you rearrange, just you take this equation V1 and 1 is replaced by 2 and 2 is replaced by 1. Instead of 1 you write 2, instead of 2 you write 1. That is a simple method to find out V2. So the same equation but 1 into 2 and 2 into 1 you will get V2. So these are the final velocities of the bodies M1 and M2, and there are several cases we are going to see now. And when you take both the bodies, that is first body and the second body, they are having the same mass, M1 is equal to M2. In such a case, in this equation 453 you can substitute M1 is equal to M2. So the first term will get cancelled because M1 minus M2 is equal to 0. So you will get the second term alone. So there M1 is equal to M2 means 2M2. So 2M2 2M2 get cancelled. So V1 is equal to U2. That is the velocity of the final velocity of the first object is equal to the initial velocity of the second object. Similarly, you can substitute for V2 the same condition. You will get V2 is equal to U1. Comparing these two equations 455 and 456, you can say that both the velocities are interchanged. That is V1 is equal to U2, V2 is equal to U1. So suppose if you take two bodies of the same mass, the velocities are interchanged. That is the main point, the velocities are exchanged. And the second condition is M1 is equal to M2, and additionally there is another condition, U2 is equal to 0. That is the second body is at rest. And so what happens now here, substituting these conditions, you will get the first equation V1 becomes 0 because the second term of the right hand side will become 0 and the first term will also become 0 because M1 is equal to M2. So you will get V1 is equal to 0. Similarly V2 will become U1. That is, when you see this, when the first body comes to rest, because V1 is equal to 0, the second body moves with the initial velocity of the first body. That means when this condition is applied, that is both are having the same mass and the second body is at rest, then this is the condition. What is the condition? The V1 becomes 0 and V2 becomes U1. And just you apply the condition and simplify the equation, then you will get the final equation. And case 3, the first body is very lighter. So when you see very lighter body, when they fall on the heavier body, definitely it will bounce back. So when you throw a ball on a wall, the ball is a very light body and the wall is a heavier body, so the ball definitely will bounce back. And so we are going to see that by using this equation. Here M1 is very less than M2. So what happens to this M1 by M2? That will become 0 because M1 is almost taken to be as 0. And also if the target is at rest, that is U2 is equal to 0, which means you take this example, ball and wall. So the wall is usually at rest, so U2 is equal to 0. And you take this equation 453, throughout the right hand side you divide by M2. Each and every term you divide by M2. So M1 by M2 minus 1 divided by M1 by M2 plus 1, because M2 get cancelled, so we'll get 1 U1 plus 2 by M1 by M2 plus 1 into 0 because U2 is equal to 0. So M1 by M2 is almost 0. We have considered here M1 by M2 is equal to 0. So the equation becomes 0 minus 1 divided by 0 plus 1 into U1. So you will get negative sign. So V1 is equal to minus U1, which shows that when you see the example ball and the ball will bounce back. So you are getting the negative sign. So V1 is equal to minus U1. And next you are going to divide the equation 454, that is the final velocity of the second body, and for that you divide each and every term by m2. So we will get this expression, and so here right hand side both the terms will become 0. You are substituting m1 by m2 is equal to 0 in the ratio, so V2 becomes 0. That is when you take the ball and when the ball collide on the wall will remain in the same place. So V2 is equal to 0. That is the wall will not move. So that this is the case we have arrived. So V2 is equal to 0. So V1 is equal to minus U1. So these are, if you take the example of ball and wall, you can understand this derivation clearly. First you are taking the final velocity of V1 and divide each and every term by m2, and here the final velocity of the second object, and divide each and every term by m2, and applying the condition as m1 by m2 is equal to 0, you will arrive this conclusion. So here, so the second body, which is heavier in mass, continues to remain at rest even after collision. And I have told you the example. The example is again given here. If a ball is thrown at a fixed wall, the ball will bounce back from the wall with the same velocity with which it was thrown, but in opposite direction. So the ball is bouncing back, which means that it is thrown in opposite direction. And next, case 4. First we have taken in case 3, the first body is lighter. Now we are taking the second body is very much lighter than the first body. Then here the ratio m2 by m1 is equal to 0. Whereas in case 3, we have seen that m1 by m2 is equal to 0. Whereas in this case, m2 by m1 is equal to 0. So for this, you take this equation 453 and divide throughout the terms by m1. So if you divide this, you will get V1 is equal to U1. Similarly, you take this equation 454 and divide throughout by m1. So when you divide that, you will get this condition, that is V2 is equal to 2U1. So we shall see what happens here. So here the equation implies that the second body, which is lighter, will move with twice the initial velocity of the first body. So when you take the first body, initial velocity is U1, the second body will move with twice the velocity, because second body is very lighter, so it will move twice the initial velocity of the first body. This is the conclusion arrived from these equations. And next you are going to see about perfect inelastic collision. And I have told you one example. If throw a bubble gum on a car, the bubble gum will stick on the car. So here the objects stick together permanently after collision with such that they move with common velocity. So both of them now begin to move with common velocity, and so m1 and m2 initial velocities are u1 and u2, whereas after collision they move with a common velocity v. So there is no v1 and no v2. Together they move with a constant velocity. So here m1 u1, the linear momentum during collisions is now written as m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to m1 plus m2 into v, because here there is no v1 and v2, so together it is v. So m1 plus m2 into v. So here when you find out v, and no need to have this tabular column, and so v is equal to m1 u1 plus m2 u2 divided by m1 plus m2. This is a final equation. This is for perfect inelastic body, and you remember this example for perfect inelastic body, that is the bubble gum stick to the car. And next we are going to see about loss of kinetic energy in perfect inelastic collision. So here the loss of kinetic energy is usually transformed into sound, thermal, heat, light, etc. And this we are going to see now. So here we are taking kinetic energy before collision and kinetic energy after collision. KEI is initial kinetic energy, which is given by half m1 u1 square plus half m2 u2 square. That is the first body's kinetic energy plus second body's kinetic energy. And after collision, KEF, that is kinetic energy, final kinetic energy, that is equal to half into m1 plus m2 into v square, because both the objects stick together, so you take that as m1 plus m2 and begin to move with a common velocity and let it be v. So the loss in kinetic energy means you have to subtract KEI and KEF. When you subtract, you will get this, that is you write the expression for initial kinetic energy and the expression for kinetic energy, final kinetic energy, then you will get delta Q, which is loss of kinetic energy. And when you expand and rearrange, you will get this expression, loss of kinetic energy. But this is enough, girls, and this is a very long derivation, so you can write this alone. And next we are going to see about coefficient of restitution. So when you take a rubber ball and plastic ball, you compare the motion of rubber ball and plastic ball, the rubber ball will bounce higher than the plastic ball, because the loss of kinetic energy for elastic ball is very much less than the loss of kinetic energy for a plastic ball. So here we can measure the amount of kinetic energy by a number called coefficient of restitution. You can simply call it as COR, coefficient of restitution. And what is the definition? It is a ratio of velocity of separation, that is relative velocity after collision, to the velocity of approach, that is relative velocity before collision. That is after collision, what is relative velocity, and before collision, what is the relative velocity. You have to divide that, then you will get a coefficient of restitution. So the symbol is E. So velocity of separation, that is after collision, then velocity of approach before collision, because before collision the two bodies will approach, and after collision the two bodies will separate. And you can write this as V2 minus V1 by U1 minus U2, because that is a relative velocity of the bodies before collision and after collision. And when you see this, you can write this expression for elastic collision. In elastic collision, usually the numerator and denominator will become equal, because in elastic collision both of them will remain same. And so what happens now? E is equal to V2 minus V1 by U1 minus U2 will become 1. So for elastic collision, the coefficient of restitution is equal to 1. And so the coefficient of restitution for an elastic collision, E is equal to 1, but that means there is no loss of kinetic energy after the collision. But in any real collision problems, there will be some loss, because there is no perfect elastic collision. Definitely there will be some loss. So E is not always equal to unity. E means coefficient of restitution. So here there will be some loss of energy. If the ball is perfectly plastic, so if it is plastic, not elastic, if it is plastic, it will never bounce back. And so the separation of velocity is 0 after the collision. So here the separation becomes 0, that is the numerator will become 0. So E is 0. That means the coefficient of restitution always lies between 0 and 1. So E value will vary from 0 to 1 for perfect collision and elastic collision. Hope you understand, girls.